Welcome to the Emergency Action Plan training. You may be wondering, what is an emergency action plan? Well, job site emergencies such as fire, severe inclement weather, injury, or power failure could occur at any moment, and an emergency action plan is designed to protect you if a situation occurs. These events may require a site evacuation or the need to call for emergency responders. The emergency action plan is designed to remove employees from danger, treat injuries, and account for all employees in the event of an emergency. This plan will provide all the information you will need to protect yourself in an emergency situation and what is required to be implemented by your employer on each job site. This training will help you understand how to use your employer's emergency action plan effectively and will cover the necessary elements of a plan, employee training requirements, and standard operating procedures. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, requires that companies develop emergency action plans to deal with the cleanup, emergency response, and corrective actions involving hazardous wastes, as well as the possibility of bad weather, fire, injury, or other types of disaster. Since employees from every company could be exposed to such dangers at any time, every company is required to implement an emergency action plan. If a company employs fewer than 11 people, the program does not have to be in written form. However, many general contractors require a written emergency action plan regardless of company size. At a minimum, the following 6 elements must be included in every emergency action plan. Emergency evacuation plans, critical operations procedures, accounting for employees, emergency rescue and medical duties, reporting a fire or other emergency, responsible representatives. Some of these elements may be universal, while others need to be specific to each worksite. We'll cover each in more detail on the next pages. First, we are going to cover emergency evacuation plans. These include escape procedures and escape route assignments with diagrams. Of course, an emergency evacuation plan will be developed for each individual project because each worksite is different. For example, an emergency evacuation plan for a high-rise office building will differ greatly from one for a residential dwelling. On some job sites, there might be operations that may make an emergency situation even more hazardous because they need to be shut down before evacuating the site. For example, employees may need to secure propane tanks or turn off electrical tools in the event of a fire. These procedures must be addressed by your employer on a project-by-project basis. The plan must also have procedures to account for all employees after an emergency evacuation has been completed. This is easily addressed in a generic plan that states how foremen or site supervisors will account for all employees after an evacuation and will include a rendezvous point and a roll call. The rendezvous point, or a safe location to meet after an evacuation, will be chosen based on the type of emergency involved and will be specific to each job site. Certain employees trained in first aid and/or firefighting will be assigned emergency rescue and medical duties that could prevent a small emergency from becoming a major disaster. In these types of situations, the employees identified in the plan will remain on the job site to perform the functions they are trained for, provided they can perform these duties in a safe manner. Any rescue or medical duties that have been assigned to a particular employee should be indicated in the emergency action plan. Do not provide any medical assistance unless you are trained to do so. If your employer has decided to rely only on paramedics or other outside medical services, that will be indicated in the emergency action plan. At no time will you put yourself at risk. Now we'll discuss the procedures for reporting an emergency. When an emergency occurs, you'll need to know quickly so that you can spring into action. This is accomplished using an alarm system. If 10 or less employees are present, voice communication is an acceptable method of informing everyone present of an emergency situation or the need to evacuate. However, when there are 11 or more employees present, an alarm system is required. Any alarm system used must be distinctive and loud enough to be heard over the surrounding noise at the specific job site. If the alarm is electronic or electrical, it must be periodically tested by your employer to ensure reliability. Along with using an alarm system, some job site situations may require emergency responders and their numbers to be posted at the job site. Additionally, there may be a list of key personnel, such as the safety director, that need to be notified in the event of an emergency. The final of the minimum elements are the names and job titles of the company representatives responsible for the emergency action plan. If you have any questions or need further information about your employer's emergency action plan, don't hesitate to contact the person or people listed in this section. It is important that the actual implementation of the emergency action plan be simple, direct, and carried out without confusion. All employees will be trained in their roles in implementing the plan. Training and/or review of our emergency action plan will be accomplished at the following times: upon initial assignment to a job, when an employee's responsibilities under the plan change, and when the plan itself is changed. You must be trained and know how to perform the following tasks related to the emergency action plan: alert others, call for assistance, locate fire extinguishers, follow escape routes, safely get away from danger and be properly accounted for, and accomplish specific tasks that may be assigned to you. A copy of our emergency action plan will always be available for employee review. If appropriate, it will be posted at the job site with the emergency escape route diagram and emergency telephone numbers. Also note that when your work assignment requires you to work in someone else's facility, you will fall under the provisions of their emergency action plan and may need to receive additional training. A standard operating procedure is a set of instructions for carrying out routine tasks. In emergency situations, where things can quickly become chaotic, standard operating procedures are helpful for guaranteeing that all critical operations are performed in order without hesitation. Specific standard operating procedures for emergency medical response, reporting an emergency, and site evacuation must be developed by your employer for each specific job site. The next pages will cover the general requirements for each in depth. Should an injury occur that requires an emergency medical responder, the below listed actions must be taken in the order given. First, call the emergency response number posted with the emergency action plan. Next, call the administrative office at the number provided so that help can be immediately sent. A person will be designated to direct the emergency responders to the injured person and provide safety data sheets if appropriate. Finally, provide any medical assistance you are trained and certified to do. Do not provide any medical assistance unless you are trained to do so. If a fire should occur, all personnel and the local fire department will be notified. The phone number of the local fire department will be posted with other emergency numbers. As in all emergency situations, people calling the fire department should remain calm, speak clearly and slowly, give the exact location of the fire, describe the situation, give the phone number you are calling from, and do not hang up until told to do so. A site-specific evacuation plan must be developed for each job site and included in the emergency action plan. However, the following details of an evacuation plan are the same for every job site and can therefore be considered standard operating procedures. First, the plan must address the need for safe egress. All exits must be labeled with a suitably illuminated, clearly legible exit sign. Doors, passageways, stairs, etc., which appear to be an exit but are not, must be identified by a sign that reads, "Not an exit." Aisles and passageways will always be kept clear to provide a direct, easy exit from the job site. A map or schematic drawing of the evacuation route will be posted, and all employees must be made aware of the route they are to take depending on where they are on the site. If personnel have specific duties during an evacuation, it will be included in the emergency action plan. If you have one of these duties, you must receive training and are to only perform your duty if you can safely. A safe meeting place or rendezvous point will be established for each location or job site. Examples include a parking lot, next to a dumpster, or across the street by the oak tree. In the event of an evacuation, all employees should make their way to the rendezvous point as soon as possible so that they can be accounted for. Wind direction and other potential hazards must be taken into account when determining the rendezvous point. Emergencies aren't planned, they just happen. Make sure you know what your responsibilities are regarding the emergency action plan, even if it is only to move to the point of safety as directed. As with all safety training, never assume to know. Ask. Your well-being or that of another may be at stake.